Hi, it's Hazel, and welcome to my channel, Hazel Anaka Design. I just figured out one teeny weeny disadvantage of working for yourself at home. You can't even do TGIF. Thank God it's Friday, because Friday is no different than Sunday or Monday or Wednesday or any other day of the week. However, in this case, it is the follow-up Friday, the latest installment. This video will be airing on March 28th. And before I forget to tell you, please tune in to Martha Makes Art, to her channel, because I'm going to be a guest in her live craft and chat. So I'm looking forward to that. As I mentioned in another video, I don't know if I'll be doing mixed media stuff or slow stitching or what exactly, but I am tickled pink. So let's see what I have been up to since I last gave you an update. So quite recently, this video, the video on this slow stitch journal cover aired. And many of you knew that I was away for a few days. My husband was attending a conference and I tagged along because sometimes, you know, a change is as good as a rest. And sometimes the focus of being, or the chance to be away from your home environment is just enough to get you to focus rather than be distracted by all the things that are going on around you. So when I first showed you this cover, or didn't know if it was going to be a cover or just a wall piece, I had these flowers done. I think I had this cantha stitching done. Maybe I had that done. But what I did was I rolled this thing up, got a needle or a little container for holding needles, and took a few skeins of embroidery thread and took this with me to the city. And because hotel room lighting is notoriously god-awful, I stitched during the day, you know, just by a window. So I will draw your attention to a few other things. So this this crooked little line of stitching here was just an attempt to make that little piece lie down. I did just a running stitch around this burgundy square, or rectangle, I mean. I did some satin stitch on this and the, oh, I guess I thought I had done all four. Looks like I could do a bit more work here. So on these two sections, I just randomly filled in some of these ovals. I did, okay, I might have shown you that. I did these lazy daisy stitches here and here. So I'll do some sort of centers on these flowers, I guess. I don't know why. This is obviously 2, 4, 7. No, 2, 4, 6, 8. So many fewer. This one has many more petals than this, but yet I love how that looks. I don't know if it's the arc or that against the yellow with this burgundy adjacent, but what else did I do? Did I say French knots here? And I finished going around this. Oh, I did a few French knots there. Finished the cross stitch around here. Ran out of thread. Had to switch to another color, but that's okay. Maybe that's all I have to show you here. Somehow I thought I was further along than this. And of course, I can choose to stop at any point. You know, these flowers, I could leave them without centers. I could, yeah, just stop where I am. Oh, something needs to be done here, I guess, to hold that down a bit better. Or I suppose I could glue it. Anyway, so that's part of what I was doing. And I'm just telling you how easy. Roll it up like this. You don't put any creases into it. And this takes up very little space. I think most of us have little, you know, either makeup bags or pouches and that sort of thing to put this in. Now, unfortunately, when I first looked around, I thought, oh, damn, did I forget to pack scissors? So I had been to the dollar store and I just bought another little pair of scissors. That brings my count of scissors up to, I don't know, 150 now or so. So obviously I'm well fixed for scissors. Now, I have had this snippet on my desk forever and a day. You know, I probably would have, I did show you this during the Blush Journal years. That's how long it felt like when I was working on them. There are still some for sale, by the way. Anyway, I wanted, for those of you who maybe weren't aware of my existence, or you know, weren't subscribers, or you know, whatever the reason, I just thought it might be worth showing this to you again, simply because I'm going to show you some other snippets. And I wanted to point out that I've got, well, obviously my base was, okay, this was the stuff that you use as interfacing in drapery panels. So I did these little bows, I hand sewed some sequins, I couch stitched this cute little fiber here, a variety of fabrics and laces. This is a heart sequin. Here are some really cute little buttons. And maybe that's just more the same. Now you will notice that I still have two. Is this thread actually connected to some? Oh. Looks like it's connected to this heart here. So clearly I must have been intending to add some more because I have left the two needles stuck in there. I would hope, when I say I've done some French knots, I would hope that at some point I remember what it was that I intended to do, or perhaps just, you know, call it a day. And I should leave that because it's a corner. Maybe I should just shape it a bit. Anyway, you know, either finish it or decide that it's finished and put the needles away and perhaps add this to a spool. I'm going to end up cutting that thread, and that might make the decision for me. I'm just cutting those little fibery bits of that netting off. Oh, and here's a big chunk. It didn't matter to me that that was sticking out, but of course, if that's the only element sticking out, it does seem to make sense to take it off. Okay, so there's that. Now, maybe I'll leave this one thing for the grand finale. At some point, I would have shown you that I cut these different panels off this piece of fabric. I had both bought a piece of it and was gifted a piece by Angela, so I have a fair number of these. Anyway, I pinked around them, glued them onto this piece of, I don't know, cardstock or end paper or whatever it is. But because I didn't like the look of the pinking against this background, when I had white thread in the sewing machine, I just did some crazy stitching around. And I will, well, I shouldn't try doing this. Well, maybe I can do it freehand. Who knows? Oh, those are pinking shears. Do I have any decent scissors? These might not be good, but we'll try anyway. So I'm just going to, it'll be easy here where the design is sort of a block. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but then I can finally either put this in my Celebration of Women journals, or I can put it with completed ephemera, and it's one less thing kicking around here on the desk. Now, of course, when you glue fabric to paper, oh, I'm going to have to just go along there, otherwise I'll be cutting. I'm just going to take off those little peaks off the pinking shears. Otherwise, I'll be cutting into the thread there. Anyway, I started to say that as you, when you glue fabric to paper, you know, it's quite easy to go out of square with it. And you can see by this little, how this line is a bit wavy here, that I probably didn't exactly do that perfectly. But again, you know, you can, if this is terribly out of square, I could, like once I get this off here, I could also, you know, put it on use a cutter and just make sure it is as square as possible. If it's really out badly and it's annoying me, then I could also, you know, add lace or ribbon or something, some distraction along the edge. That was an owie. Okay, so we can now do something with these. I was at the sewing machine, and I'll show you in a minute why. And if you may remember, if you saw the video, this must be what I considered the right side. When I did the video on using those pages out of an Ideals magazine, I showed you that, you know, these two are obviously a set, and that my intention was to sew them together and create a journal signature. So what I did, I have them both U-shaped. I glued them down, and then, you know, a week or two later when the glue was dry, I just did a straight stitch around it. Now I see that those pages did not line up perfectly. So I could either ink that or just take that little hair off a difference off there. I'll just avoid making any more mess on my cloth here. Now, at the time I said that this would make a great border. Obviously, I don't want this print to be sideways, so I will, at, you know, whatever point this gets used, I will cover that up with either a focal point or, you know, something else. So we're going to call that one 90% done. Now, hopefully you have been watching all the videos for Masterboard Madness and enjoying them and learning something from each one. I am so pleased with the people that I, you know, invited, and the people who said yes, and you know, each video is totally unique. At least, I think it was both, if I'm remembering correctly, both Brenda and Joan, who used wallpaper scraps on their masterboards. And I thought, I don't think that I've ever really, I mean, I've used a piece of wallpaper as a substrate, but to layer it is something different, because, you know, these papers typically are not they're not thin, but it worked quite nicely. And if you're wondering why are those pages that shape and why do they have holes in them, it's because these are pages that I took out of, oh, this one's upside down. Not that it matters once you get gesso on it. So this was a French country decor magazine, or not magazine, book, and I basically, I'm just randomly picking places to put these things back in. So this first one is just shades of yellow, and of course on a sample you're not likely to get either full designs or multiples of a design usually. But I thought the birds were cute and this bit of a flower was cute. So I kind of tried to make that my focal point. Now, because this is an art journal, you know, I have the opportunity at some future point, if the spirit moves me, to add more to this. I mean, I could go in with paint or ink or stamping or doodling or whatever. Maybe these colors look okay side by side. So this one is just really, I mean, really neutral at this point. So it tends to be on the darker side. These are sort of masculine prints. And again, you know, the world is my oyster. I can do whatever I want with this. And maybe let's mix things up a bit here. Let's put this one in here. So in this case, now this page hasn't had any, it's work done on the other side. Nothing has been done here. So this would be a good page to, you know, to glue some sort of scraps or something onto. Now, the beauty of a ring binder like this, or a ring journal like this, is that, you know, I can move the pages around, you know, umpteen different combinations. Assuming that this was going to stay here, I would pick something, of course, that kind of works with it. I probably have enough blue scraps to do a second page, and then, you know, sort of double the size of the spread. Again, just a starting point. So, you know, we'll see this again at some point when I choose to do a little more work in it and take some of those pages to the next level. So, typically, like my sewing machine is on another table. So when I have stuff that needs, you know, like these girls, or this page here, when I have stuff that needs sewing, I basically, you know, either put it on that table, or sometimes it's just basically thrown there. Sometimes if it stays there for seasons, from one season to another, it might be more nicely stored. This was a vintage bag that someone gave me. Someone at an antique store gave this to me, and it was an old, was it Eaton's or Hudson's Bay? I can't remember which one. If you've been following the news, you know that, like many department stores, Hudson's Bay is in serious trouble. I thought I saw something the other day that they're going to try to keep 6 stores open. I don't know if Edmonton is one of the cities that will have a store left or not. You know, again, it's just a sign of the times. Now, you have probably seen people make ruffles. I would say the ones that I'm remembering were fabric. This is clearly paper. But if you have seen some of those ruffles that people make, they are so precision that you'd swear a machine made them. And I don't mean that as a compliment. If we wanted stuff machine made, we'd get it machine made. Either that, or it's just a feeble attempt to explain why mine looks like this. I think this has character. I think this looked interesting to begin with because the printed part of the design ends and there was a little bit of the part that was probably glued together. I think the fact that it kind of looks like a, you know, maybe a fence that is about to fall down is cool as well. Now, I used, I think that's dark brown thread there. I also had this, which was weird stuff. It was like a ribbon, so it was on a roll. It's, I don't know what it is. to be honest. But I did not change the size or the width of those zigzags. So you can see that even those kinds of choices make a difference in how things look. Obviously, on something narrow, the stitches really sort of, dominate. On something this wide, it's, it's kind of, it's there, but it's not overwhelming. This was a bit of a pain in the butt. Well, in fact, both of them were. The beauty with paper is that you can, if the paper cooperates, you can pre-fold them. Do your folds, and then just sew. On fabric, if you wanted to do that, obviously you'd have to pin the fabric in place. Sometimes I couldn't get it to fold, to cooperate. Like this is a really large section here, but I'm not letting that bother me. Maybe that's a logical place to cut it into shorter pieces. And this one, doesn't lie flat, but again, this is not a problem. So if you have been scared to try because you think, my machine is crappy, or I don't have good stuff to sew on, or I don't know how to make my pleats look like a machine did them. Here's some proof positive that, it doesn't have to look perfect. And if it doesn't look perfect, it's going to have more character. Okay. I did a video. Now, you wouldn't have seen, well, yeah, you'll see that before you see this. So this is just a piece of graph paper. And in that video, I think I titled it something like, are your old art supplies dead or alive? Well, these were Marvy pens, and I've had them, I said, for 25 or more years. And I came across them in my basement art space, and I thought, okay, use it or lose it. So I did a bit of a swatch. Some of them were dead right off the bat. The others were okay. I used a stencil, and I made the design, and then I began outlining, to give it a little more definition, began outlining it right there during the video. But the thing wasn't full enough. So I just kept, after the video, I kept on stenciling, and I kept on outlining, and by the time it was all over, I scooped all those things up and threw them out. And hey, I never have to work with them again. Yay! So, even the back side of this, clearly it bled through the paper. It's not thick paper. This almost looks as good as this side. So, obviously I will turn this into a signature page, and I will add it to the place that I keep my boho journal stuff. Okay, we are getting to the end here, people. So, that a while back, I did a video on using wallpaper sample books, and that wasn't even counting the wallpaper itself. So there were those huge pictures where they show the wallpaper in a room setting, so there's furniture and flower arrangements, all that. And then there were all these, in this one particular book, there were all of these sort of beige colored strips. So was I going to throw them out? No, I wasn't. And they've been kicking around here. And of course, they're 18 inches long, so they don't fit anywhere. And then I decided enough is enough. I'm going to make snippet rolls. Now, I should tell you, I'll just line them up here. I'm just going to quickly say what I've used in case it may not be obvious to you at home. So this one was all music page, and they were scraps of paper that I had rubber stamped previously and had, done it, must have enjoyed myself, and promptly forgot about them, misplaced them, whatever. So you may be able to tell that I have 4 owls here, and some border type things, some others that are kind of more abstract, some little viney, florally things. And 1, 2, 3, essentially 4 or 5 basic ink colors that were used. So I just kind of, spread them around, and then sewed around the perimeter and did a couple rows of just this windy thing, just as an attempt to hold things down. I had just used my glue stick on them, on all of these, and it was it was really holding down well, I thought, because again, I had, quite a few days that elapsed between the time I did it and the time I went to sew it. So sewing this gluey thing was not an issue at all. Again, maybe some of this could be trimmed off and made a little neater or whatever. Now, because I made so many of these, I think that I may be bringing them to the live sale that Joni and I and Sandy are doing on April 3rd. Now, we know how labor intensive snippets can be. I thought that if I, limit it to the size of this paper, which was 18 inches, if I use a minimum amount of stitching, don't do any hand stitching, don't add any embellishments, that these would be basically offered as bases for the buyer to then, do whatever they want to with them. So as you saw with the blush colored one, that could be sequins or buttons or ribbon, or now this is all stamped, so maybe a person needs some bigger, more solid, and maybe more colorful focal points. Now, the owls are large enough that they could be a focal point, I suppose. And again, depending on what a person does. Now, the way these owls are sitting, you'd basically use it horizontally. Anyway, unless this is your first day, you know what to do with something like this. Certainly those of you who love inking could also ink. You could splatter paint on it. You could do whatever. Add some watercolor. These, that would be interesting. I wonder if, like, some of these colors are definite. These might all be stays on, so that would work. I'm a sucker for gift wrap. So on this one, I used wallpaper scraps. So this one is a lot crisper or tougher than that one. And then I had this gift wrap with these babies, and it almost looked like, mug shots or something. So I ripped off the little borders that were around each face and then fussy cut around the actual head and shoulders so that I could use them this way. Now, of course, with gift wrap, there's that straight edge where, part of the design will be cut off. I hope you don't hold it against him that this kid has only one ear, but I thought with his little beanie there and propeller that he had to be included. Now this one clearly is done as a vertical. So that means that this could be, on the side of a page, or it could be a center belly band or whatever. Again, did the stitching to hold it in place. And like I said, used these other scraps of paper just for some background interest and so on. Because it would have been pretty, I think, boring with just those little round heads. Now, I think because I'm still working on a baby journal, I will probably hang on to this one. But I just wanted to show it to you because if you know ahead of time, or if you're wanting to, like, of course, these kids could have all been, you know, give them half a turn. It could have gone horizontal as well. So, or you can mix it up and not worry about, is the kid standing on its head or on its side or whatever. But I chose to do it the way I chose to do it. This one, Carol, if you're watching this, well, not that you'd remember, because goodness knows this, I think this came in the very first Happy Mail you ever sent me. I talked about that recently where I showed that the fabric that she had sent me that was kind of grouped in colorways and had a hole punched in it, and it was being stored on a binder ring. So I picked colors that matched, that worked well together, and I glued, again using my Yoo-Hoo glue stick, glued all this down. Now what I included of my own is this subtle stripe here, the creamy or ivory colored rickrack, and this coffee dyed muslin here. Now, as you know, when you're tearing fabric, you end up with a lot of threads. So I thought, well, I could either add them to my thread jar, or I could throw them in the garbage, or I could lay them down and let them add to the messy, rustic sort of look on this masterboard. And on here I used dark brown thread. I could have chopped up the rickrack and laid it down, but I like the idea of just doing one strip down the middle. I think it provides a bit of definition, and it means that, no matter how this gets used or where it gets cut up, every piece will have some. So there's that one. And it's amazing how we are influenced by what we see, or at least I am. I don't want to say that I'm just a mindless follower, because I would like to think I'm more mature than that. Excuse me. I'm getting a hoarse throat. It's only my third video of the day. Let's see if I can find a lozenge or something here. Almost, my husband came home from the hotel with a head cold, and I am kind of almost, I don't know, I'm not as bad as he is, but I don't feel quite right either. Okay, so I was watching Sandy, aka Wilhelmina's video for Masterboard Madness, and she's kind of, I'm beginning to think she's kind of an aw shucks kind of girl. I can't do that. I can't do that. And then she does a video and you see, oh, she sure as hell can do that. And it's good. It's not that she does it and it's not good. She does it and it's good. Anyway, so she flipped through so many Masterboard samples that were just, ads and pages out of the old books that she loves. So I thought, well, again, what am I, chopped liver? I can do that. So this was part of, and that's another thing that will be coming to the sale as well. I ended up buying a lot of the Girls' Own paper and women's magazine, and they are starting from 1905 to about 1916. Some of them were really ratty, so some of the pages, had either detached or whatever. So I had some of those things kicking around my desk. A lot of the ads had this blue writing. So I thought, well, brown and blue go together. So I had some ads. Part of this masthead from this magazine. Well, just basically, those were my two sources. And then I thought, well, with this goldy yellow here, I also had these glittery, kind of metallic-y looking pieces that came off a, I've shown them before, that came off one of those souvenir art pieces. And this was very Egyptian. You can say I cut the lady's head off, and there's a dress. Cut the torso off, there's a hand, but I could disguise that. I could disguise those feet. And I had a few of these little pieces that were kind of, you know, I didn't really like using that spear or knife or whatever it is there. But again, add a couple more elements, and all of a sudden, you've got something that just looks like a little flash of sparkle. And we don't necessarily know that it's a knife. So, like with all the others I've shown you, this, you know, needs more, in my opinion. But again, whoever buys this can do those next steps. I don't know what order I should, you know, it's crazy. Why don't I just show them to you instead of holding back and trying to say that one is, excuse me, better than another or whatever. So this was one of the first 3 that I had done. So these are paper, these 3, these 2, and a companion piece over here. No, 2 others are fabric. So let's just snip this guy off. He's kind of unruly here. You know, it's like one of those, if you're a woman of a certain age, have you ever had a hair sprout out of the most unlikely place? I'm not going to tell you mine, and you don't have to tell me yours, but I think we know what we're talking about. Anyway, so this one, again, I've used the same backing on everything, and then I just used a fabric. And I was using a blue colorway here. Most of these, I would say, came from that bunch of fabric that Carol had given me. So, like, it may take a few years, but I do use what I get. I'm trying to get better. Anyway, I thought that this turned out quite nicely. And again, I looked through my rickrack. I found this baby rickrack, and it was in this light blue. So I just basically drew a line of glue, laid it down, drew another line of glue, laid it down, and then, of course, hope to catch it in several places with the stitching. I don't think it's lifting up anywhere, to be honest. I think for that part, I would have used my tacky glue. So that's this one, and it sits upside down. So in theory, it's always ready to go. So again, I won't keep saying the same thing over and over again. You know what to do if this is yours. Okay, so then I had a number of pastel fabrics. Again, I think with the exception, this mauve here is actually bias tape that I opened up and ironed flat. Now, of course, bias tape does not tear, so you end up with a very straight edge. But it just felt so pastel-y to me. And again, the direct result of somebody's video that I saw on Masterboard Madness. Candace, Candy Cane Creates. She was doing a spring/Easter, very pastel-y thing. And again, kudos to her. She had never done a masterboard before this, and I think she did an incredible job. So, you know, be sure to check her out. Anyway, it made me think, well, again, if Candace can do it, I can do it. So I went for it, used the same light blue rickrack, and used light blue thread here. Now, I sewed all of these today, so you can see how many times I changed my bobbin and thread. White, brown, brown, navy, light blue, and we're not done. Oh, and there was that brown one as well. So typically, if I have a whole pile of sewing to do, I spread my items out and I think, okay, let's try to minimize the number of thread changes we have to do. Okay, that would work. You know, brown would work here. And you know, of course, you always have the option of just using black or white or gray or a tan color. That would basically work probably 9 times out of 10. So let's show you another one. So this one, same base. This one is all wallpaper scraps. So you remember that from, what did I just show you with those wallpaper scraps? Didn't I just show you something with, am I losing my marbles? I told you guys about the little tiny stitchery kit that I did. It was only about this big. Of all the things I've ever lost, I missed my mind the most. That should be the tagline on my channel. Anyway, these are all wallpaper scraps. And because I had just been, well, not that long ago, had been at our junk journal group a couple Tuesdays ago, on the swap table there were some spools like this. There was a third one, and you know, we make an initial trip to the table and we take something, and then we wander over there again later in the evening. And then by the end of the night, whatever is left on the table has to be picked up and taken home by whoever brought it. Now, I, of course, am attracted to this. You know, I see these colors across the room and I'm thinking, yeah, baby. But I also, you know, understand that I have a lot of stuff and, you know, I don't need to take everything. However, Tina had brought this. And, you know, at this time, people are typically, it almost becomes like a used car sales lot. Yes, take this baby home with you today. You know, so we're basically trying to talk people into taking stuff home so we don't have to. Anyway, I'm so glad I took those rolls because now this is 18 inches. This is 6 inches. So 3 sections of tulle covered this perfectly, added sparkle and shine. I mean, yeah, it's kind of annoying when the glitter falls off, but hey, I've had worse things happen in my life. So this one, I think, is a perfect setup for turning into a boho type thing because the shine and the sparkle is already there. Then this is my final one. On this one, same purple bias tape. You know, on plaids, and of course I don't think I have those things here, but you know what a plaid is like. You get a variety of colors. So on one of these, you can see there's some yellow and green. Well, I don't want yellow and green on here, but if I trim selectively, I can get the blues and the reds and the pinks on here. So that's exactly what I did. Now it will be hard for you to tell because of course I did this as an overlay on the top. But if you remember that cute little dress, girl's dress that I took apart, this fabric and this one essentially the same thing, but in two different colors, complementary colors. So I mixed those two up. I had some of the stripy stuff, also from Carol, and some plaid that I worked in there. Now the thing that I used on this one was also like a tulle, except it was, well, it wasn't tulle. It was more like a ribbon. Yeah, just a sheer ribbon. And it was the very end of it. So, of course, I didn't have enough to cover all the areas, which, again, is not the end of the world. The other thing I did, because, of course, I thought, well, why don't I use some of the flowers that I didn't even show you this, I don't think, but I had thrifted some flowers. There were some that lent themselves very nicely. Of course, I just removed the plastic part. I don't see, well, okay, we can pretend that this was the same thing. Now, this is a mishmash of colors. I haven't put them away yet. I keep my flowers separated and stored by, well, let's pretend that this is exactly the kind of thing I used here, here, and here. There were 3 of them in the right color. You pull the head off. You remove this center plastic thing, and you've got a flower. Now, this actually might be kind of nice on this one. But of course, I hadn't thought of that at that point. Anyway, very easy. And all I did was dot some, oh, there's still a little plastic nubby thing there. All I had done was dot some glue around. I didn't necessarily want this to be flat, 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 but I also didn't want it curling on itself and making my life miserable as I was trying to sew it. So, some glue in the center, a dot or so to hold down each petal. What the heck is going on here? Maybe that's just a glue blob of some sort. Anyway, that's gone. So you can see that that's kind of effective too, because it adds a bit of interest. However, you know, that's not typically how we are used to seeing flowers, like they've been driven over twice. So again, if someone were to buy this, my recommendation would be continue embellishing. Let these things either go into the background or do something definite to turn them into more attractive focal points. This is not obviously, one of these was kind of loose, I thought. You know, it could be as simple as that. Again, you guys are full of good ideas, so you don't need me for that. Okay, so that concludes that. As I said, some of these will be available for sale during our April 3rd live sale. And that's not all. Without you, and I hope you can forgive me for this, but without you, I did a boho snippet roll. Now this is just, I don't even know what was on here. And of course, Kim, don't say I told you so. Kim would be making me put a top and a bottom on this so it looks more like a spool. Anyway, let me unroll this baby for you. I don't know how long it is. I don't think it's 9 feet like the other one I did. But it is a combination of a variety of blue fabrics, some lacy, beaded, sequiny parts on top of that, This was an applique that I'm not sure, I think one of the girls gave me that. And in an upcoming haul video, you will see me talking about these butterflies. This is the package that I opened, and these are the blue iridescent ones. So, I mean, you know, at some angles they look purple, at some they look silver, at some they look blue. They are clearly not purple, but they're really effective, I think, for catching the light and so on. So, it is a bit tricky, as you may know. Oh, what I did on this one, this is a section of a jelly roll. And, you know, I didn't necessarily think that maybe I would do anything with this color. So I thought, well, wouldn't that be a good dark base for something like this? Because I knew overall it would be dark. The only thing that's really lightened things up here a bit is the sparkle of the glitter and these lighter bits of applique. Now, oh, I just taped that on there, I guess. Yeah. So I, what did I do here? Okay, when I had the fabric on there, I did some rows of straight stitching just to hold it all together. I also hand stitched, like I didn't want to sew over these elements here, these bigger, these fancier, these focal points. But obviously I want them to stay put also. So I hand sewed around the perimeter or within the body of the design where I felt it was needed. Now I think this is holding together very well. And then of course I hand sewed the butterflies on there. Now of course when you cut into something like this, you know, there will be some stray beads flowing around, and there will be some, you know, like a thread like this that I should probably cut and maybe put, let's do that right now. Put a tiny speck of art glitter glue there just so this thread really doesn't feel like, oh, kind of disappeared on me. But I'll just put a tiny something there so that it doesn't ever, you know, come undone. Now, of course, when we make ephemera, belly bands, journal ties, you know, things will get used, but they will not get the same degree of use and abuse that a garment would. So I think we're lucky in that regard because, you know, I think that people would look at this and admire it, not see if they could make something come loose. So I am tickled pink with how this turned out, and we'll put it back on my makeshift spool thingy majigger here and just add it. I have a little bit of a growing collection of these, and as I'm finding spools, or even this, like this has a plastic end on it. This one has clearly been lost over time. This will be 6 inches long, which, you know, you could either cut in half and get 2 3s or whatever. But I'm now saving these kinds of things. Obviously, I like my wooden spools better, but, you know, those cost money, so you improvise and or you do without. So, yes, it just pleases me to have these things. Now, I suppose I could do, you know, a bead of glue or something there that would work just as well, but for the time being, this is staying on here. And I am slowly, like my mother used to say, molasses in January, moving towards getting some projects finished up so that I can, in good conscience, start something new. So this was another thing that I took with me, obviously without the spool, to work on at the hotel. So again, I did a lot of that hand sewing there. So oh, look at evidence of something falling apart. I guess if I see where these guys are loose, I could, give them a little shot of glue as well. I think that what I've come to realize, now it wouldn't work in a case like this, but I think what was really good, where is it? On something like this, by getting a good grip, by having this glittery tool cover this, if there was anything loose or, prone to coming apart underneath it, it would essentially be sandwiched in there and held in place by both the stitching and the tool. So, if you're working with something that could cause a potential problem, you may want to kind of think about that. And, yes, if you put something on, it does obscure a bit, but it also, there's nothing to say that you can't keep building on it. So obviously putting a piece of and there's very little left on this thing, on this roll. It kind of takes away from those focal points. Although I suppose if I had a problem area where more of these little gold beads want to come off, I could, glue some sort of an artfully cut out piece of tool to hold it in place. So anyway, there are only a couple rounds left on this. So, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I thought one of these, or maybe it was the other one that I did finish, had a Dollarama sticker on it. So it's not very expensive, but it's very effective. And the pieces are small enough that you would actually, where can I put these little beads? How about in the garbage? You would get enough to use for a project and not be wondering like, okay, how many more of these things do I have to make to use up this one roll of stuff? I think that I'm sort of old school and that, oh, that has 100 yards on it? Yes, please. And then you realize, okay, but you only really needed a yard. So anyway, it's an education process. Let's just say that. Okay, guys, I hope that you have enjoyed seeing what I've been up to. And what I have done without you at my side. Actually like this. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the next one. If you are a new subscriber, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are an existing subscriber, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please introduce, and I haven't been saying this lately, if you're a new subscriber, or you've been a subscriber for a while, but have never really sort of drawn my attention to that, please do. Tell me, I'm new, I live in such and such a place. Somebody, was it Julie, I think, said, you know, I watch all the time, but I don't often comment. And I'm thinking, but that's a lost opportunity for you and for me. So if you, you know, tell me who you are, where you live, what you're interested in, what you hate, um, it's that first step in a friendship, and it's the first step in building rapport, and you know, I'm of course I'm here to please myself, but I'm also very keen on giving you what you want. So you know, if when people say, would you do this or this, I will I will definitely do it. So again, it's just about dialogue. So please feel free. Feel free. Okay, guys, we will see you in the next one. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.